All right, this is part 2 of the video for our coffee shop Bible study journal or album. And so we already did the cover and the hinge, and we're ready to do the inside left and right covers. So just as a little reminder, this one just has places, 3 little pockets for like paper clips and little stickers maybe. And then the back page is to hold 2 bookmarks, okay? So let me give you some measurements. We'll do the left-hand side first. So for this, you're going to need to cut both the cardstock and the pattern paper, because as we're building, we have to add the pattern paper. We can't do that last. We have to do it while we're putting the pockets on. So the bottom pocket is larger, so you're going to need one that is 7 by 2.5, and then the other 2 pockets, they need to be 7 by 2. So one at 7 by 2.5, 2 that are 7 by 2. Okay, so that's for the front. The other, the 2 pockets in the back, those measure 3.5 by 6.5, and you'll need 2 of those if you want 2 bookmarks. Okay, now because we have to put the paper on first on the back also, if our book is 6 inches, the cover is 6 inches wide, my paper is 5 7/8 inches wide, and my book is 8 inches tall, so I went 7 7/8 inches tall for the paper. So 5 7/8 by 7 7/8, and I am inking my edges. On this, they only need to be about 2 inches, so I just kind of looked at scraps. I have one that's a little bit bigger, but these are 5 7/8 wide, and they're 2 inches tall. Okay, so we build our pockets and our pattern paper together at the same time, basically. All right, so let's get started. We'll do the scoring of our papers. Oh, I need to clean that. Did you hear that? All right, let me get my favorite scoring tool. So the 3 small ones for the front left side, they are all pockets, so they all get scored the same way. You put the long side across the top, and you're going to score at 1/2. Rotate that 1 time, score at 1/2. These pockets don't have to be very big because they're just holding the paper clips. And then another 1/2 on the opposite end. So we're getting 3 score marks. So I start with the long side. I score at 1/2, rotate it once, score at 1/2. Rotate it one more time, score at 1/2. And this is the larger piece, so this one's 2.5 inches, but it's done the same way, and this will be the bottom pocket. So we're going to score at 1/2, rotate it, 1/2, rotate it, and 1/2. Now the 2 pockets in the back for the bookmarks are done the same way, but they're long, tall pockets. They don't go this way, they go this way. So when we're doing the scoring for these, start with the short side at the top, so the 3.5 inches, score at 1/2, rotate it once to the long side, 1/2, one more time. Okay, and let's do that for the other one also. So like I said in the beginning, this is an easy book, but it's a useful book in my eyes. And to me, having a lot of pockets is usually pretty useful if I'm not going to use it just for pictures. And I do have a couple places where we can add pictures. All right, so let's get our scissors and the burnishing tool that I use for this. Oh, where is it? All right, so pockets get mitered at the top on that 1/2 inch, and we take out the square in the corner where the 2 lines intersect, and we take that out at a diagonal like so. Okay, let's do that to all of them to get them ready. Miter the tops, take out the square at the bottom on an angle. Don't take off your corner. Like, make sure you're cutting the diagonal so that you don't take out the corner of your pocket. Okay, and let's go ahead and do those back ones also. Miter the top, take out the square at the bottom on an angle. All right, so now that we've done our scoring, our cutting, now it's burnishing. Now, one of the things you might want to decide also is, do you want to put your pattern paper on before you attach it to your book? It doesn't matter either way. I have chosen not to put my base pages in my book until I have my elements put on. Sometimes I add my pattern paper first, sometimes I don't. It's just a matter of preference. Because this is a video and I don't want it to get too long, I will probably add my pattern paper later. I'll just add the pattern paper that has to be done while we're building the page elements. I always fold into the mountain. Two more. Last one. Now when we build our page on the front, we're going to start with the bottom pocket, then we go to the top pocket. I think that's how I did it. And then the middle pocket. No, did I do it that way? I'll have to think about that. All right, so let's get our book. So our larger pocket, now that we have the 1/2 inch tucked, is 2 inches. That's going to go all the way down to the bottom, and we move it all the way to the left so that it doesn't get in the way of our book opening and closing. So all the way to the bottom, all the way to the left, and it should be okay. If not, you have to adjust because you don't want this to get in the way of opening and closing your book so that it gets bent. Mine's pretty stinking close, actually. I think it's going to be okay. Should be. Okay, so we lay this down. Then we're going to place a 2 inch piece. And then we do the middle. Then we're going to place our middle. Then we place a 2 inch piece. And then we place the last one, and then we put our top in. Now the reason why I do it that way is because I want to cover those little 1/2 inch marks. If it doesn't bother you, you don't have to do that. It does bother me, so I do that. So I'm trying to decide if I need to maybe push. I'm going to try and adjust this just a hair. I felt like it was just a hair too long. I don't want it to get in the way of the book closing. So let me see if that does the trick. And it should, yep, okay. All right, so let's just get your glue. Now I just refilled my bottle, and boy did that glue seem thick. So I don't know if I'm gonna have issues with it coming out or not. Hopefully not. Oh no, seems okay. Okay, so we're putting the bottom, is this the big one? Yeah. Put that one in first. Hold those two sides in all the way to the bottom and the left. I kind of use my fingers as a guide to feel that it's in the right spot. Okay, so now we're going to put in whatever pattern paper you choose. I inked the sides but not the top and bottom because it'll be covered. We slide that down into our pocket just a little bit, like so. Oh, that didn't go underneath. I'm gonna have to trim that. And that is why we do a dry run. super close. Let's see if that does the trick. Yep, I just need like a sliver. All right, so let's go ahead and glue that piece in. Do a dry fit, because like I said, I had to do just a sliver off because I felt like it was a little bit too tight when I was tucking it in. And don't tuck it down too far into your pocket because we want that space covered in between our two pockets. So I'm just doing it a little bit. I'm lining it up on the left to make sure that it is not going to get in the way of the spine again. Now, let me check my book measurements because I wanted them spaced out a certain, I think I went 1 inch in between. So 1 inch down and 1 inch up. Yep, okay. So I'm going to, you can either use your scoreboard measuring. I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. And at the top of the pocket, I want the 1 inch. So I know that I'm going to place the next pocket at the top of that 1 inch mark. Okay. Now I think it's easier if I go ahead and use the scoreboard. So my pocket is at the 6 inch mark. So I'm going to lay my next pocket down at 5 inches. So these are smaller. Let me do a dry fit to make sure that it will not get in the way. And I think it's going to be okay. Okay, so I'm going to use the 5 inch again as my guide as to where to put it. All the way to the end. Go ahead and burnish that in. I'm just going to double check. Yeah. Ooh, that went a little bit farther than I like. All right, so now we're going to put our next piece of pattern paper in just a little bit so that it covers up that space. And again, I inked the sides, but you don't have to do the top and the bottom until we get to that top one. So just slide that in to cover, go over those 1/2 inch pieces all the way to the side here that we can. Okay, and now we want the top of the next pocket to go at the 1. Okay. So the top of this pocket will be 1 inch down from the top. And I'm using my scoreboard to help me find that measurement. Oh, I didn't do a dry fit. I probably should have. Okay, top of it goes at 1 inch. Make it straight across. That looks fine to me. So if you put a piece of paper, the whole thing, and then you put your pockets on, the reason why I don't like that is because then it doesn't cover those little 1/2 inch pieces on the side. And that's the only reason. Some people it doesn't bother. For some reason it does bother me. Okay. And now this piece we do have to ink at the top and the side so that when we tuck this in, because we're going to see the top of that paper, we want it to be inked. Okay, and we'll just slide that down like so. remember to make sure that I only inked one long side, so I gotta make sure I get that one at the top. Yeah, this glue is really thick. Okay. Making sure it goes under those 1/2-inch strips. I'm going to lift it up just so I can see that I'm going down to the right. Something's getting stuck. There we go. And then burnish it down when you're happy with where it's at. Okay, and then you'll go back and put pattern paper on here, and that's where we'll put our clips to hang on to them so we don't lose them. All right, so the back page, I just used the same paper as I put here in the center. Again, this is my 5 7/8 by 7 7/8 piece. I'm gonna go ahead and glue that one down first because our pockets are not side by side. So we need to see the paper in between the pockets. So this one, there'll be bookmarks in them, so it's not like you're gonna really see those 1/2-inch sides of the pocket. They'll be covered by putting the bookmarks in. Wow, this glue is so thick. Usually I have the problem that it's running because it gets too cold, but this is mega thick. I wonder why. I might have to add water, I guess. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and place that. Gotta pick it up, make sure it's even. Get rid of all that excess glue that oozes out. We'll have our two pockets side by side, but they won't be touching. I want a little bit of space in between. So I measured in 1 inch, I believe. No, it wasn't 1 inch. Maybe it was like a 1/2 inch. It's closer to a 1/4. So I'm going to measure over, if I go a 1/2 inch here, and a 1/2 inch, that's too much. I'm going to do a 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to move it in a 1/4 of an inch from the edge, a 1/4 of an inch from the outer edge. So go ahead and glue your 3 sides. Okay, let me get my ruler handy. Just about a 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So I'm going down to the bottom where it meets my paper that I laid down, and that looks pretty straight to me. Okay, and then I'm going to move my ruler over so I can see where a 1/4 of an inch is. And I'll place the next one. Okay, and I'm going to go down to the bottom where it meets the paper, the decorative paper, not the bottom of the book. And again, that looks pretty straight. All right, so when you make your bookmarks, our pockets end up being about 2.5 inches wide. So I made my bookmarks, let me show you, and I did laminate mine. So my bookmarks are 2 inches, but I do have a little bit of hangover from the lamination because I laminated it. So mine are 2 inches wide, and they started off at 7.5 inches tall. But then I made a decorative top, and I have that hole, and then that'll slide in. And I do like to see the ribbon sticking out the top. Okay, so then they have enough room. You could make it a 2 1/8, 2 1/4 probably, and have no problems. But to me, 2 inches was enough. I used the coordinating cardstock, and then I layered the green on top of the pink, and then I just used those cute cups, like the Go drive-through ones. And I did both of them that way. They have the same center. So it's one coordinating piece for the base. I matted it once with another color from the coordinating papers, and then I used this. This one is 1 1/4 inches wide because I wanted to make sure I got the full picture of both of those. And then those just slide in real easy. I put paper on here, and then I did use I matted the real pretty rose. I made a mat that was 4 1/4 inches by 3 3/4, and I corner rounded, and then I used this from the ephemera pack, Life is Too Short for Bad Coffee. Okay, I just placed that here, and those measurements are obviously depending on what you end up putting there. It might end up being that your mat is a little bit smaller. All right, so that's the front and back cover, pretty easy. Let's move this to the side, and now let's start working on our base pages. So I have my piece that we scored in half that we're going to attach to our book. I have it open on the left-hand side, so this is the front. The pieces that you need for the front are 4 5/8 by 6 1/8. You just need one of each of these. 4 5/8 by 6 1/8. One that is 2 by 7 1/8. And one that is 4 1/2 by 8 3/4. Okay, got those down. While we're at it, you might as well cut the back. You just need 2 pieces. One that is 6 3/4 by 3. And one that is 6 3/4 by 4 1/4. Okay. All right, so let's get those started. Let's grab the long piece first. So let's go ahead and take the one that measured 4 1/2 by 8 3/4. Okay. Our pages are 7 3/4 inches tall because they're shorter than the book. Remember, we made our spine at 7 3/4. So I had to add a 1/2 inch to each of this to make a pocket. Okay. So because it's a pocket, we'll try and do as much scoring all at the same time so you don't have to keep moving your mat. With the 8 3/4 inches across the top, 1/2. We are all experts on pockets now. Turn it one time and 1/2. Turn it one more time and 1/2. Okay, that's going to be the side pocket that holds a little booklet. Go ahead and grab the piece that is 4 5/8 by 6 1/8. And on the 4 5/8 inch side, score it 1/2, and that's it. It's not a pocket. That little piece that was 2 by 7 1/8 is a pocket. So place the long side across the top, score it 1/2 on 3 sides. So 1/2, rotate it once, 1/2, rotate it once. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at the back pieces. Those are just 2 pockets also. And they're not staggered. They both are going to be able to put things all the way down to the bottom, if that makes sense. It will make sense here in a second. But so long side across the top. Our pages are 5 3/4 inches wide. That's why we went 6 3/4. You had a 1/2 inch on each end. So half, half, and half. Same way with the other one that's 3 inches. Like I said, easy book, people. It's the decorating that makes it cute. And the functionality. Long across the top, half, rotate once, half, rotate one more, half. All right, so let's do the top pieces. We have 3 pieces here, so I'm going to go ahead and miter the tops of the pockets. Cut off the square at the bottom where the 2 lines intersected at an angle on the pockets. Okay. Now with this piece, it's going to be a flap. Normally, if it goes to the top of your book or the bottom of the book, you have to miter. Because this is going in the center, it's okay that we don't miter these, because when we tuck it under, it's going to be covered by paper and we don't have to worry about any of the paper sticking out. But if you like that mitering no matter what, and you just want to get in the habit, go ahead and miter the top and the bottom. But it is not necessary, just so you know, because the flap is in the middle of the page. All right, let's go ahead and work with these by burnishing them. And then we want to do a dry fit to make sure we don't have to do any adjusting. All right, so this pocket is actually going to go on this flap, okay? And it's going to go on the far right-hand side. So we just want to make sure that if we put one on top of the other, that they line up. And mine seem to be okay. When we do this, to save, I meted mine with a cut apart. And so last time I used this one. I really like that one. But I might use Life is Better with Coffee instead this time, just for a little variety. I haven't decided yet. Well, I better decide right now so I can show you. Let's go ahead and do that one. Cut that. So this is what determined the measurements, because I knew I was going to use a cut apart, and those are 4 by 6. So I made the paper 1/8 of an inch larger so that it would have that matte edging. So I'll go ahead and do this one with you. So let's glue this piece to our flap. Always like to make sure I get those corners and some at the bottom so it lays flat. I'm going to turn it sideways so that the 1/2 inch is at the bottom facing me. And I'm just going to place that on top. Line it up on all 3 sides. That looks pretty good. And then if you have any glue oozing out, you can go ahead and wipe that up. I might have a little bit. It should dry clear. If you're using our glitter glue, but you might see a little bit of a shine because this paper is darker. Okay, so our flap, I have the pocket on the right-hand side. I want it to look like this, but I'm gonna have to slice it so I can use the pocket. So our pocket is 1.5 inches. So I want to cut off 1 3/8 inches on the right-hand side of this cut apart. So take off 1 3/8. So So I'm putting it in my cutter upside down so I get the right side. So this is now 1 3/8, and we don't have to cut it down top and bottom because we made the pocket to be the right size. And then this one's going to slide in just a little bit, just a hair, so that they line up. Okay, so I do want to ink this before I put it down. And I am going to ink on all 4 sides. Okay. Let's go ahead and glue the tiny piece down first. All right, so now let me take a look if I have to tuck it under the, I really don't have to tuck it much, if anything. Okay, so I want a little bit of a border here, and you can still see that it says life is better with coffee. And remember, we're taking out the word coffee in our head and replacing it. This is a Bible journal album. So we're not celebrating coffee, even though I do like me some coffee. Get up here. All right, I think that's got enough glue. I might have to tuck it a little bit. That was dumb. I should have tucked it first. Trying to make it even. All right, so there is our pocket. On the back, I just did some paper piecing with some, this has got a magnet on it. Okay. So it's a good thing I checked that because I would have forgot to put the magnet on. I just did some paper piecing here. So we need a magnet here and here to keep that flap closed. So let's go to the back of this. Well, let's put it on our book first. So go ahead and get page 1. It's open on the left-hand side. I'm going to place the long pocket to the far left. And the reason why we can put it all the way to the left, you might, if you want to leave a little bit of space, you can, because when we put this in the book, remember, we don't put the page all the way down to the bottom of the hinge. We lift it up a little bit. But if you want to make sure that it is not hindering opening and closing, you can lift it, move it a little bit to the right of that page, if that makes sense. And I am out of my favorite magnet, which is the basic gray from Country Craft Creations. So I have to substitute with something else. Okay. I did leave like a 1/16 of an inch space just to be safe. All right, so I want to center this on the right-hand side. You can measure if you want. I'm not that particular, so I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball it. I'm going to turn it sideways so it's easier for me. So it's 8 inches, so the 4 inches is here, so I'm going to try and center this at the 4-inch mark. No, I'm close to the 4-inch. Okay, that looks about right. Open it up, burnish it. Okay, and we don't want it flapping up and down, so this is where we're going to add a magnet. Like I said, normally I use the basic gray because I love those. They already have the adhesive on the back. Mine do not. So this is kind of a nuisance, but I'll show you. I think, do I want 1 or 2? How many did I put on this one? Well, that was a bigger magnet though. Oh, I did put 2. Okay, so I'm going to use, I'll need 4 magnets. Okay. And I have some spacers in between mine that I don't need. Okay, so kind of fold it over. And I want mine to be about here and here, not too close so that it's hard to mat. So I'm going to bring them down a little bit, and then it'll probably be about right here on this pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little piece this took me a while last time because they're not as strong as my basic gray. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Probably about right there. I'm going to lay this down. It doesn't have to be exactly across evenly. And I am going to place a piece of score tape on top so that it stays in place and doesn't come off while I'm doing this. Okay, so now I'm going to place the magnet, its partner, on top. And I'm going to place a little piece of score tape on top of the magnet. On both of them. That's why I like them with the adhesive already on there. It saves you a little bit of time. It's better coverage on your magnet. So let's take the backing off. Of the top magnet. And then we're going to close the book and we're going to push really hard on those magnets so that they stay. And last time I had to do it several times. Ooh, that one worked. Ooh, they worked that time. Nice. So now let's cover those with score tape so they don't go anywhere. Okay. All right, so that is the front. Now let's move it to the back so we have the right hand side open. And, excuse me, this is super easy. Let's get our 2 pieces that we already worked with. The 6 3/4 by 3 and the 6 3/4 by 4 1/4. And they're pockets, so we know the drill. Top. Take the corner out. Okay. So we're going to put the smaller pocket on top of the bigger pocket. And I'm not going to mat it first. I'm going to wait. And you can save paper by waiting also. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm not going to put paper on this whole thing. That would be a waste of paper to me. I did not cut that corner well enough. All right, so let's go ahead and burnish. So I had a purpose for everything. And one of the things I thought about with these overlapping pockets, maybe what to put behind it, is I have some stencils that I can use while I Bible journal. And so I thought, okay, I need a spot to put those. So that was my thinking on this part. So what's going to happen is we just glue this onto the bottom of here. So do a dry fit. Mine seems to line up. And then we'll mat this, and you don't have to go all the way to the bottom. So I have this much sticking up above the pocket, and I just want it to go down a little bit. So I'd probably make a 2-inch piece to mat this one. Okay, so it does not have to go all the way down on the bottom. Let's glue this pocket onto the bigger pocket. Okay. All the way to the bottom. Line up the sides. And once you're happy with it, give it a burnish. All right, so now all we have to do is attach this to the back of page 1, and it goes all the way down to the bottom. And I just want to make sure it's all the way on the left-hand side. And this one will go pretty much all the way to the right, but remember, this is the part that will be attached to the hinge. Pockets, pockets, all these pockets. Okay. Line it up. I should have my glasses on for this. Okay, we're going through several layers, so just make sure you give it a firm push here. We want everything nice and flat. Okay, so that is page 1. How easy is that, right? So it opens to go on the hinge, and then it turns. That is page 1. Let's take a look at page 2. I don't know if I said this already, but I'm changing page 3. What I did have on, what I had on the front is now going to be on the back. I'm thinking that will help it move a little bit easier, I think. Okay. Another easy page. So you'll need 2. We have 2 belly bands on the front. These are 1.5 by 8 3/4. That's the front. And on the back, we have a flap on the top, a pocket on the bottom, and then we have a kind of another little pocket on the top for like ephemera and stuff. So 2 pieces. One that is 5 3/4 by 6. We want it the exact width because we don't have to, it's not a pocket, so we don't have to tuck anything under. We don't need our 1/2-inch ends. And then we do have a pocket at the bottom. So that one's 6 3/4 by 2 3/4. Part of the way I design these is good use of my paper. So I had a bunch of scrap papers of my brown artisan, so I wanted to use those up. So that's how I came up with these measurements. Instead of having my pocket be 2.5 tall, it's going to end up being 2 1/4 because I had paper that would match that, if that makes sense. So that's how I try and use my paper the best way. All right, the 2 belly bands are the easiest. Let's do those. These get 2 score marks, 1 on each of the long ends, so the 8 3/4 is across the top, score at 1/2. And you could go ahead and do 8 1/4. I just flip it around and do 1/2 again. We don't have to do any mitering on these. I said I'd do it this way, and then I started to do it the other. Okay, that's it for those. Let's do the pocket. So get your 6 3/4 piece long across the top of your scoreboard. 1/2, rotate once, 1/2, rotate once, 1/2. Okay, so now the 5 3/4 piece, we do not want the 5 3/4 across the top. We want the 6 inches across the top, okay? 6 inches across the top, score at 1/2. Now we're gonna make another score because we end up just folding it up and gluing the edges to make a pocket, okay? So this pocket is 1 1/2. So I'm just gonna scoot this over and I'm gonna go to 10 1/2. So see what I did there? On the left, 1/2, move it over all the way to the right, 10 1/2. I am going to corner round this bottom section so that when I lift the pocket up, that it has a rounded look. Okay, let me get the top back. Okay, we do need to miter on the 1/2 inch for this flap because they will be from one end of the book to the other. And our pocket, let's do all of our mitering on that. You can go ahead and put your pattern paper on most of this, not all. Would I say you could do all? Let me think about that. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. It's about this piece, so I'll wait until I get there. So this one goes back the 1/2 inch. And this one we fold to the front. So what I want to tell you is do not glue these 2 sides until you have matted first, okay? Because if you glue these 2 sides, you're not going to have your paper big enough that it can be tucked in and it'll look weird. So we mat first, then we glue these 2 sides, okay? Don't forget that. So that will be the front of page, the back of page 2. We got to prepare our belly bands by burnishing. All right. So base page 2 opens on the left. 2 belly bands that we're going to place. I don't put my base paper down first because I want the paper to go on top of these 1/2 inch pieces that we glue down. So let me show you what I do. I'm sure most people do it this way, but we're going to go 1 inch in, I believe, on each side. So the end of one belly band here, 5 3/4, it'll be 4 3/4. So it's going to be like that. So we'll go measure in 1 inch on each side. And I'm just going to use my scoreboard ruler because I can see those. And I'm just going to put glue on one end first, not both at the same time. Okay, line it up with the 1 inch. Okay, our page is 5 3/4, so I'm going to go over to the 4 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4. That's right here. It's this white line. Okay, that's good. Now let's flip it and glue the opposite end just to make sure we can line it up nice and straight. So I just want to make sure it goes to the 4 3/4. And make sure this one lines up with the 1 inch. Perfect. Okay, so I don't know what pattern paper I'm going to use yet on this, but let me take a look and I'll show you how I glue it to make my life easier so that I don't make a mess of the glue. Let's see, what paper do I use? I don't know what paper. I'll just use this. Is that going to be big enough? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to use the floral paper. And this is 5 3/4, so I want this to be 5 5/8. And it's 7 3/4, so I want it 7 5/8. Now I just used this on the front, didn't I? I don't think you'll be able to. That'll be fine. Okay, I'm talking to myself. So my page is 5 3/4, make it 5 5/8. 7 3/4 becomes 7 5/8. Okay, now I'm going to ink the edges. And I used to put glue on it and then try and finagle it underneath here, and it would get stuck and the glue would get everywhere, so I don't do that anymore. So I place this underneath the belly band. You can see why I don't put the glue on there anymore, because it makes a mess. Okay, I'm gonna line it up to where I want it and make sure it's even on the edge. Okay, so I'm gonna hold it down with my hand. I'm gonna lift this up and I'm gonna glue. Put glue under here. I want to make sure it gets on the corners, so I put that on the paper. Okay. Check your corners that they're down, that you put glue in the right spot. Now I go to the other end, do the same thing, kind of hold it down so it doesn't move. Put my glue on. I'm putting it on the brown paper. I don't go all the way to the edge because I know there's a little bit of a matte, and I want to make sure I do get it on the corners. I put that on the paper. Check those corners. Okay. And I do lift up the middle. I stick the nozzle of my glue down in there, and I just squirt a little bit of glue so that that bottom lays down flat. Lift it up a little, stick the nozzle underneath the pattern paper, squirt some glue in there, push down. And that paper's not going to go anywhere, okay? That just makes your life a little bit easier. Now, on my original book, I had some scraps of paper I wanted to use, but they were not 7 3/4 inches long. But I wanted to use them, so I didn't want to waste. So what I did was I just put some of the sticker, I cut the stickers to put on the bottom so that I could still use this. Okay. All right, and I do a 1/8 inch difference. So if these were 1 1/2 wide, I would make the pattern paper 1 3/8. If these are 7 3/4 tall, I'm going to make them 7 5/8. Okay, that's the front. Easy. We stick our scripture folders in here. Turn it to the back. Right hand side is open. Get your pocket. That goes on the bottom. I didn't do a dry fit, so I hope it fits. I used to be really good about always doing that, and I don't know. I have gotten lazy, I guess. Okay, all the way to the bottom. Okay, so this flap goes at the very top, so we'll glue that down. Perfect. Okay, so glue on the 1/2 inch. I'm going to turn it upside down. It's easier for me to see. And all the way to the top, side to side. Make sure it lays down evenly. Okay. Now, once you put your pattern paper on, then you will come back and put glue on those two sides and close it. Don't do that now until you put your pattern paper on. Don't glue it till you put your pattern paper on the base part, okay? And then that's all we have for that one. You could take a look at the walkthrough I did. There is a cut apart, I believe, on that one that I had to trim down a little bit to fit. I took one of the 4x6s and cut it down to fit. That is page 2. Easy, easy. And now page 3. So on this tutorial, I'm going to take this page and I'm going to make it the back. I just think I don't like that. So I'm going to move this page to the back and this will be here. Or are they too similar? What do you want me to do? This can end up going in the front. Maybe I should just do it the way I have it. Because I did cut. Let's just do it the way I have it instead of causing myself any problems. Okay. Measurements for the front and back. The front, you're going to need 2 pieces that are 3 5/8 by 7 3/4. And one that is 6 1/8 by 5 1/2. Those are the 2 doors and the angled pocket underneath. The back is 1 piece that is 6 3/4 by 6. Now I do have the tab punch board that I'm going to use. You don't have to use a tab punch board. You could use a circle punch to add a little tab. And when I talk about the tab, I'm talking about this. So this pocket has a tab. I use my tab punch board. You could use a little circle, fold it in half. Some of you might have other punches to use. You might have the envelope punch board you can use. I will be using the actual tab punch board, okay? All right, let's do our burnish, or our, what do you call it? What do you call it? What do you call it? Scoring. Oh my gosh, scoring. Okay, this is our 3 5/8 piece. We make 2 score marks, 1 1/2, the 3 5/8 across the top. Score at 1/2 and 3/4. So I still want a little gusset because I'm putting tags in that angled pocket behind the doors. So I do need a little bit of a gusset. On the other one I made, it was actually larger. I think I went with 3/8 and that made it a little bit too much, okay? So let's do that to the other piece also. Short side across the top. First at 1/2. Then at 3/4. Our angled pocket, which one was that? Where's my measurements? Oh, there. 6 1/8 by 5 1/2. We need the 6 1/8 across the top. We score at 1/2. I'm double checking. Yes. Turn it 1 time and score at 1/2. That's it. You just have 2 score marks. So it looks like an L with my score marks. Okay. 6 3/4 across the top. This is the 6 3/4 by 6 piece. This is going to be scored like a pocket, so 1/2, rotate it once, 1/2, rotate it once, 1/2. All right, so the 2 doors that we scored twice, we need to miter on the 1/2 inch. So not the 1/4 inch that's in between. So just miter on the 1/2 inch piece. And do that to both pieces. Just on the 1/2 inch. Don't go over into the 1/4. And let's go ahead and burnish our 2 score marks. And I am going to do a dry fit on this one just to make sure that I have the right measurements for the width. Sometimes it's hard to do the second score, but okay, so we do have a 1/4 inch gusset, which is smaller. That should be okay. Okay, now this one. All right, let's get our base page. Open on the left. Okay, so I just want to lay down the 1/2 inch pieces to make sure that my doors are the right measurement. Yes, I did that correctly. Woohoo! Okay, so that's that part. Now the L shape. Wrong one. Okay, this, nope, yeah. This is going to be an angled pocket. So let's go ahead and miter the ends of the 1/2 inch, the 1/2 inch, take out the square at a corner. or at an angle. Fold these back. Okay, now I want it to angle cut. So what I need to do is decide how far over I want to go. Let me show you. I want to decide how far over and how far up. So this one I did at 1 1/4, and this one I did, okay. So with the 1/2 inches tucked underneath, I'm going to get a pencil and I'm going to measure the, we have the it's 5 1/2 now across the top ish. And I want to put a little tally or tick mark at 1 1/4. Slide it to the right hand side and put a tick mark at the 3 inch. Okay. Both of the 1/2 inches are tucked under. I have the longer piece across the top, the longer side. I put a tick at 1/4. I took this whole thing, slid it to the right, and just made a tick mark at 3. And that will be our guide for how to cut. And you might want yours to look different. Some people like straight across, like corner to corner. I put those tick marks in the cutting channel. And once they're lined up, I slice. So I took that off. And then I erase those if there's any pencil marks showing. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm not going to mat this quite yet, but when you do this, you want it to be an 1/8, your pattern paper is an 1/8 of an inch smaller. So you're going to cut out, if this is 5 and, what is it? About 5 5/8. You're going to cut your paper at 5 1/2 wide, and it's 5 inches tall, so you'd cut your paper at 4 7/8 tall. And then you lay it down, and this, rather than try and do measuring, I just put a tick mark where I want to cut. So I would move it a little bit to the left of that brown so that you have a little bit of a border. And then over here, you're going to put a tick mark a little bit below the end of the brown so that when you slice it, you can still see. Maybe I should do it with you. I just don't know what paper I'm going to use. Should I use, what did I use on that one? Let's use this one. So let me measure again. I need a square that is, this is about 5 5/8. So let's go 5 1/2 by 4 7/8. Okay, let me cut a piece. I got too much stuff up here. Gotta make room. I didn't plan on doing this, so I don't have it ready. Okay, so this was a square to begin with. I'm just kind of checking to make sure I'm happy with the measurements. Yeah, so place it on your paper, your pocket, like you would glue it down, and get your pencil. And I see the end of my pocket right here, so I'm going to put a little tick mark in front of it. I don't want it to go all the way, so it should be less than 1 1/4. Yep, mine's like 1 1/8. And then here we measured up. I'm going to put a little tick mark right before the end of the pocket. So this was 2 inches up, so this should be about 1 7/8. And it is. So now I'm going to slice that. Put that in my channel. Line up your marks. Don't move. Let me see if that works. It does. I'm happy with that. So erase any pencil mark that's showing. We'll go ahead and ink so I don't forget, and I'll go ahead and glue that piece down. Now you could have just done your measurements. I think it's just easier to put tick marks when you line up your paper. I'll go ahead and glue that on. Come on, here we go. This glue got so thick. If you watched my other videos, you'll know that I complain about glue all the time. All the time. Love our glitter glue, love it, love the stick, love how, but sometimes it drives me insane when I'm trying to use it in that bottle. Okay, and when you're happy with your layout, the way it looks, go ahead and burnish. Always make sure you got good coverage on your corners, that they lay down. Okay, let's go ahead and attach this to our book while we're at it. Opening on the left. You do not put this on first. You put the doors on first, okay? So let's put glue on the 1/2 inch. Okay, I'm going to turn it so that the open side is facing me. And I'm going to line up that 1/2 inch to the edge. And that looks right. And now we're going to do the same to the other door. Just put glue on the 1/2 inch. Lay that down all the way to the edge. Make sure it's lined up. Okay, so we have our 2 doors that meet at the center like they're supposed to. And now we can put our pocket in, and we're going to center it in between. We don't want it to get in the way of the doors opening and closing. So yep, that'll be perfect. So I'm not going to go all the way to the score. I'm just going to kind of center it in between the 2 scores. And we just have glue on 2 sides so that we can easily slip our prayer cards or our prayer tags in and out of this pocket. It does go all the way to the bottom. Check your doors. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, you can, if you want, before you put pattern paper on, you could put seam binding, glue 2 little pieces of seam binding here so that they lay out, and then put your pattern paper on so you can tie it closed. The closure I used, I like the looks of it, but it is kind of a pain. So I made 4 pieces. They're matted to make them more stable. So I used that rose gold shimmery mirror paper, and I used the pattern paper. So I have 1 inch wide and 1 3/4 inches tall, and I have 4 of those. And that's the base, not the matted. So 1 inch wide by 1 3/4 tall. So then I did the mat at 7/8 by 1 5/8. So make 4 of those. I measured down once I put the paper on my doors. I wanted them to be at down 1 1/4 inches from the top of the pattern paper and up 1 1/4 inches from the bottom. And I used my centering ruler to find out where the center was. Okay, and then I used pencils so that they lined up. I don't know if I'm going to do that this time or if I'm going to do ribbon. I haven't decided yet. You can decide how you want to do it. And then I just made these smaller. So these are, I believe, 1 inch wide by 4 3/4 long for the mirror part. So they slide in, and it does keep the doors closed nice. It looks nice, but then you have to kind of work with it a little bit, like so. It's snug, and this might bend a little bit, which I'm finding to be the case. That's what I'm trying to decide. Does that bother me? Do I need to? It might. I don't know. I'll think about it. I haven't decided yet how I'm going to do that. Okay, so that front is done. Now the back is our pocket that I said I'm going to use my punch board for. Let me get this pin in my glue first. Okay. Okay, clean up my mess real quick. All right, this is a pocket, so let's prepare it. Miter the top. Angle. Burnish. Okay, so if you want, like I said, you could take a circle punch, fold the circle in half, and put a tab on the side if you want. This is, I don't know if this was sold at, I don't know where I got this. Was it sold at the store? I don't know. I need to put this little piece in this first 2 squares. Okay, now I still have my paper, my 1/2 inch folded under, and I'm just gonna put that in that section right here. Give it a punch. Okay. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to angle cut that off so that you don't see it. Okay. And now I flip it upside down, put this back, and I'm going to line, I want this to be a large tab, so I line this up with the L for large over here. Make sure it's pushed all the way. Okay, so there you have it, but we need to get rid of this. So you just turn it around. You put this in so that it bumps up against that ridge. This is your cutter. You put it in the channel, slide it over. Oh, I have this. It's a little bit too thick. Open that. Go across. And I needed to take that off because it was too thick. There you go. Now, I might round this. I don't think I did that on the other one, but I think I want to on this one. Is that in there? Yeah, I like that. I round it. Maybe I did. I don't remember. Okay, so I'm done with that. And then I just made a tab out of the pattern paper and placed it on top of there, and then I matted it. All right, so I think that's it for the construction. Let's go ahead and attach this to the back page on the bottom. Make sure I have it the right direction. I'm gonna open the doors to make it a little bit easier. And then the only thing I need to show you is how I wrap the paper clips so that you have a nice front. It lays nice and looks nice with your ribbon. The tags are graphic 45 tags that I used, and I have the dies from Country Craft Creations that I bought to mat them. The bookmark is just rectangle papers. I think that's all I would have to go over. Let me double check. I showed you how to mat. Oh, yeah, okay, I have one other thing I can talk about. Let's go ahead and center this all the way to the bottom. Got a little excess glue. There you go. Okay, I do have a dashboard that I just have laying in my album for right now. I don't know if it'll fit into a pocket when I'm done, but oopsie. All I did, the measurements, let me give them to you. And I laminated it. To me, it doesn't make sense to use a dashboard if it's not laminated because the purpose for me anyway is for sticky notes. And you don't want to put it on there if it's not laminated because, you know. Okay, this is 5.5 wide and about 7.5 long. So 5.5 by 7.5. I corner rounded, put some pattern paper on there and one of the ephemera pieces and laminated it, one on the back. That's optional, of course, but I thought it'd be helpful for me. All right, I just need to get a paper clip and we'll do that real quick. All right, I'm gonna show you how to do the paper clips really quick, but I also remember there's a couple other things I want to show you before I wrap this up. So you can see that I have different sizes of paper clips, some silver, some gold, some small, some whatever. Sometimes I used a little piece of ephemera, sometimes I didn't. If I did use a piece of ephemera, I glued something on the back to kind of make sure it stayed on the paper clip. So I found these and I didn't have those before, so I'll just wrap that one for you because it's the same idea because it's got the hole at the top. If you're doing the paper clip, you just want to make sure that you put it on the top where that circle is that you attach to your paper. That's the wrong end. You want it on the other end. So I'm just going to lay the two pieces out, one on top of the other that I want to use. And I place the center right in front of the hole. And I'm going to bring the two pieces to the back and then bring it up through the front. And I'm going to get some tweezers so I can poke it through and grab it. Okay. And then, so there's one. And then you want to take the other one, wrap it to the back and bring it through that hole. I need to expose the hole a little bit. Oops. This hole is a little bit smaller. Poke it in there. Which one am I trying to tuck through? Yeah. I don't know why I can't get that through there, that hole. Okay, I'm gonna start that again because it's not working right. Okay, I'm gonna to grab it. I want to keep that green on the center there. There we go. So then I just pull that through. And then I'm going to tighten it and adjust it. That one goes here, and I want this green in the front. And then I'm going to angle cut them. I have too much. And we can move that more towards the top. All right. It's not perfect, not this one. I should have probably used the regular paper clip to show you, but, and then it looks nice in the front. And like I said, you can do that on any of your paper clips. So take a strip of your ribbon, you find the center, you take the front to the back, bring it through, and then take the other side to the back, bring it through and pull. And that's how we did those. Just as a reminder, on the prayer cards, I did use graphic 45 tags, and then I went ahead and used the die to mat it. If you don't have the die, like on the back for the prayer, I just cut out a rectangle and then corner round. So you could do that on the front also. You would just see more of the tag, which is totally fine. And then I just took the cut aparts and glued those on. And then I'll put ribbon through here. So I have 4 of those. And then I also forgot to talk about, these are the scripture cards where you would write down scripture and explain it or talk about it or how it applies or whatever. Now these can be made different ways, but I want to give you the measurements. So you don't have to have a tab, obviously, or you could use a circle punch or whatever. But these measure, I have one to show you. I used the punch board, so that's why I have a tab already. But without the tab, this is 7 1/4, and I just folded it in half. You could do any measurement actually. And then this time I used the cardstock. On my original book, I just used a piece of the pattern paper. And then I'm going to put this, let's just do it. I'm going to glue this one on the front. But mine were 7 1/4 long, and then I folded them in half, and I think they're about 4 inches wide. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure I went with 4 inches. There's glue stuck, come on. I've talked about this before, but this bottle of glue I have is so thick. I don't know why. I guess if I maybe add water, would that help? Probably. There we go. Nope, and it stops. It's really annoying. I can't even get it out. Well, hopefully that's enough glue. Center that. It doesn't go all the way to the bottom. I could have cut this a little bit longer, the pattern paper. And then I'm going to put this one on the back, if I can unclog this. I don't even think it's clogged. I just think it's the thickness of the glue this time. See, it just stops. Oy, oy, oy. Let's see if I can get this one to go. This is new to me. Let's see if I can. This is almost empty. All right. Just centering that. On the inside then, I am going to put 2 white pieces, and I did corner around those. Let's get those in there. One on the top and one on the bottom is what I did. It's not centered, but I can live with that. And then I did cut another tab and inked that, and I'll put that up here where the cutout, the tab cutout is. And I did ink this too. Oopsie. And then I just looked at my scraps and started cutting some and looking at my ephemera to see what I had that wasn't too big. And I put the sticker Best Day Ever on here. And then I matted one of the ephemera pieces. And again, you can go through that last walkthrough and kind of take a look to see how these two are different. I did make a bow, and I'll put that up there. I like the way that looked on the tab. Okay. Got a chance to dry, but I made 4 of those. Just like I did 4 of the tabs, prayer cards. Okay, so that's that. Here are the other prayer cards I did. Real quick, I'll have you take a look at how I added the paper. So this one is different than my original because I already used some of my paper for the first book and didn't have the same amount for the second one. So the first page is this one. There is an insert. Well, I'll put some tags. It's magnetic. And then there's a pocket. Okay, so there's that one. On the back, just 3 pockets. Did some ephemera. Here's my double belly band. There is the back page, and that flips up. So I did end up putting the 4 tabs on the inside, and I still need to put my stuff inside before and then I did make the same type of closure by double matting a strip that will slide through here. I made 2 of those so it slides underneath. I haven't put them through yet, so it's pretty tight right now. Let me just make sure that I didn't. Yeah. I might have to make this a little bit more narrow. It feels pretty stinking tight. It's gonna be too hard once it's in the book. Maybe once I loosen it up a little bit, it'll get better. But as of right now, it's tight. Yeah, I don't know if I like it that tight. I'll just cut this down a little bit. It's too wide. Anyway, and then on the back, we've got that. So I already talked about how to add them to your book. This cover's a little bit different. It's kind of the same idea. Now I'd like to say that I did not want the ribbon closure on this one, but that would not be true. It said I forgot the ribbon closure. So I wanted to close it with this ribbon. I love it. But you would have to put that ribbon on before you put your decorative cover, and I forgot, so I don't have it. So I'm gonna have to work with it a little bit. But remember, you start with the back, and you're going to lay this down, not all the way to the bottom. Glue and glue, and glue on this side first. And then again, you don't want to put it all the way to the bottom. Push down, make sure it's sealed real well. Then glue on top of that hinge and the bottom. Bring that over and then push it down. And you'll do that with all three. And the only other thing I did was I made a little booklet to put in. And so I'm just going to take some printer paper, and I'll take, I didn't have enough of the other paper, I'll fold it in half, I'll cut it to make 2 booklets, and then I'll staple it and probably put some sort of cut apart on there. So once I have everything 100% done, I'll just kind of do a quick walkthrough. I still have to glue my flowers on, and I think that's about it. So if I can think of anything, I'll come back and show you, but I'm just going to wrap this up and do a quick walkthrough. Okay, let's go through the final book for the coffee shop. Let me remind you that this is the first one. This was the one I started off with. And this is the one we did together as a tutorial. So we have the side, the back. So when you open it up, I just put some of the cards in this small pocket. Put a couple of the paper clips here. Put some of the cards in this flip, and then I made a little booklet again, this printer paper. On the other side, I added some more of the cutouts in the first pocket, stickers in the second. Here are those scripture cards that we're just tucking underneath of the belly bands. There's 4 of them. Put the extra stickers from the collection in this top one. Put some decorative stencils down here. This, I'm gonna have to do something. I don't like this closure. I still think these are too tight. And I did try and trim them down. Look at that. Yeah, I don't like that. This is where we're storing the prayer cards. Maybe I'm trying to think of how I can adjust this. I didn't have this problem with the other one, and I don't know why this one is being... If you have a suggestion, you just let me know. I guess just go thinner, even thinner than what I have now. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll figure something out. See, and I just kind of ripped that. Yeah, I don't know what the deal was. I didn't have that problem with the first one. Then I just put some different types of stencils back here in this pocket. Here's a dashboard. I put one of the paper clips at the top with the sticky notes. And then here's the back with the 2 bookmarks. So that is that. And I don't have the closure because remember, I forgot to put that on. I do have it loose. If I needed to, I could just wrap it around, I guess, but it is pretty chunky once you put all your materials in there. So I kind of wish I had a tie. So maybe I'll just wrap it around because this one stays closed a lot better when you have, and I love this. It's really nice to work with. The closure. So anyway, those are the 2 books. Collections Coffee Shop. If you have questions, let me know. I'll put the links to the materials from Country Craft Creations in the description box. And if you haven't subscribed, please do that. I do have free tutorials at least once a month. So thanks for stopping by, and I hope you make the project.